Up here, it looks like we're actually that. Why have we not done that?
Genius.
I know. Oh, here we go. We get to see if it does the. Look, we're already a popular live. Nobody's there yet. All right.
It says that when there's nobody there.
I know.
So I think that that's a lie to keep us here longer.
Okay. I don't feel very popular right now,
We
do you?
can believe it.
Okay, here we go. And we're off. Ready. Hey, Sid.
Hi, Dad.
What is going on?
Nothing.
Okay.
Really. I kind of did something controversial today on accident.
What'd you
do? So I was trying to feed the crows in our backyard.
Okay, like, is your goal to have a pet crow?
Dude,
honestly.
Well, have you seen Home Alone where she has the pigeons all over her?
Yeah. Like, are you trying to be the pigeon lady?
Yes,
Okay.
with crows.
I thought the pigeon lady was. I thought that was a sad part of the story, but I guess he really.
Was it sad? I thought she was like living.
Okay. No, maybe, right? Okay, so the story with the crows.
So I was looking at what to feed them, and all that we had was watermelon that was on the list. So I give them watermelon.
Okay, what's the list? The internet?
It might have consisted of Reddit and never again because they were lying.
Really?
So
okay.
I tried watermelon, and they like looked at me like I was dumb. Like they literally did not like it.
The crows looked at you dumb?
Yeah, because we have like 2 of them that like stay in our backyard.
Yes, I have seen those.
And so then everyone else is like, okay, they're like scavengers or something, so they like meat.
Oh.
So all we had was turkey.
Okay.
And now, in retrospect, I'm feeling that might have been wrong because that's another kind of bird. But but nobody be upset with me because they hated it and they didn't eat it, and they just looked at me like I was stupid again. And now I think that all the birds are scared of me in the area.
Okay, but what we've learned is so the bird was not a cannibalistic creature.
Well, no, I think they might be. Like if you look up like
any meat
is crows, what they're gonna... like what do they eat?
Yeah,
I think they eat like roadkill and stuff. But anyway, so they didn't eat the turkey, and I left it there for like 8 hours in the Arizona sun on like top of a canopy, and it like was rotting away. And
very quickly, I would imagine.
Yeah, my pregnant sister found it, and she was like literally horrified. So that's how that's going.
Okay, that's a good thing. Can we talk about hey everybody. So
if you guys have any tips, please let me know.
Tips on feeding crows out in the wild?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If anybody if that's someone's passion is feeding crows out in the wild, please let Sydney know what they eat. That would be grateful. We'd be grateful for that. So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and a podcast host, author. This is my daughter, Sydney. She is here. She is here. And we want your questions. We will answer your questions. And we've got some before we started tonight. Apparently the last 2 times we've gone live, we've talked about doing the Narcissistic Personality Index, and we have not done that yet. So
yeah, we were also, remember when we were supposed to talk about Gypsy Rose?
Oh wow, that was like months ago. Yeah,
there's kind of updates on that now, so maybe we could.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. And then I have some stuff. Last time, Sid, you asked about depression, and we talked about the chemical nature of depression. And I actually have some data. There are some researchers that have some. It's kind of controversial information about that. So I got that. I got stuff about bullying. We always have stuff about narcissism. I got stuff about parenting. We can go a lot of different directions. I'm prepared.
Intro today.
Exactly. I'm ready. So now, hopefully, then we will all of a sudden get completely sidetracked and we'll go in a different direction.
That we've never done that. That would be really unprofessional.
Yeah. So should we start taking the Narcissistic Personality Index? Would that be something to do, or do you want to wait?
If we don't do it right now, we'll never do it. But also that the depression thing seemed interesting too.
Okay, I could do it right now. Okay, let's do that. So,
God. Okay.
I know.
Seriously though,
here we go.
We have to do it after.
So if I remember it right, you had asked a question about. I was talking. I don't remember the context. Do you remember that? But you were just asking about
a question. Do I remember
a week ago?
that?
Do you remember,
I only ask questions.
I'm
remember
a week
full
ago.
Of nothing but that.
So I think that Sydney was asking questions about. You were asking questions. I was talking about how the therapeutic model, acceptance and commitment therapy, is incredibly effective with things like anxiety and depression because it starts from a place of you're okay. So it's not that you're broken. You don't have these automatic negative thoughts or you're stinking thinking. And so you're not just trying to just change your thought and be happy, but it's more of I have this thought. I'm the only version of me. So it's more of an acceptance that this is how I'm thinking. And then you start working toward value-based goals and actions. And once you start doing things that really matter to you, your depressive symptoms can sometimes lighten. And I think that's when you said, but isn't it just chemical? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I feel like someone with like really intense depression would probably hear you say that and be like, really?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. And Beck's Garage said, I have an important question. Should I have mac and cheese or Pop-Tarts first? Pop-Tarts are always a dessert, although I think that you would.
I have those for breakfast. Is that weird?
Well, I think the question.
You did that to me.
I did. Well, no, I mean, they are a breakfast food, a breakfast thing. But I think the question, though, is if I'm having mac and cheese and Pop-Tarts in the same meal, do I start with the Pop-Tart and then I end with the mac and cheese?
I don't want to think about those together.
And that's actually a very good point. So, but I think if one was going to talk about it, I don't know, as a therapist, if I'm weighing in on this, I think the clinical data would probably back up starting with the mac and cheese because you've got a carbohydrate there, you got a pasta, and then the sweetness of the Pop-Tart would most likely be more of that dessert item. Would you agree?
Don't listen to him. This is out of his profession.
Okay, a little bit out of my league. Is that what you're saying? Out of my wheelhouse. But so I found some information from a psychologist named Dr. Stephen, I think it's Iliardi, and Iliardi is a clinical psychologist and a researcher, and he believes that the lifestyle factors have a bigger role in depression than like a chemical imbalance.
So would that be like an epigenetics kind of thing?
Well, okay, look at you.
Hey,
yeah,
big words over here.
But no, I like what you're saying, because that's the concept where we say that we often have a genetic predisposition for things. But then if you're in a real supportive family and you live by the beach and you eat Pop-Tarts every morning and you like to jog and your family's super nice and you live next to a meditation compound and your neighbor moves in and they say, hey, would you like free yoga lessons? Like, then your genetic predisposition for something like anxiety or depression may not be unlocked. So what Stephen Iliardi says is that he says he argues that what's often labeled as chemical depression, or what we would say are chemical imbalances in the brain, is a really small percentage, but that most of the lifestyle factors like lack of physical activity, and I'm curious what you think about this, lack of physical activity, poor diet, inadequate sleep, social isolation, chronic stress.
Wait, what will this do?
Like, those are what are going to cause you to feel depressed.
But those are also like literally symptoms of depression.
Well, yeah. So
wait, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of. And so what he's saying is that the actual chemical part of depression is a real small percentage of people that it wouldn't matter what they would do, they would feel those symptoms of depression. But he argues that if somebody then, they're almost like accepting that they have the feelings of depression, but that then they start working on the physical activity, getting active, eating better, getting more sleep, not isolating socially, that those then would cause someone to feel less symptoms of depression.
Does he talk about like why that works? Like, are you like finding a way to like release the good chemicals in your brain through other things, or like what is that? It is.
And he also he talks about that he calls it an anti-ruminative activity. And so that's like, because rumination is when we just start overthinking and worrying, and because you can worry yourself out of doing anything. Like, I worry that nobody will be there, I worry that people will make fun of me, I worry that I won't know what I'm doing, I worry that, and so then you don't go do. And so he's talking about that if you can engage in activities that prevent rumination, which is things like it is engaging in hobbies and exercise and mindfulness. And part of me even feels like, as I start talking about these things, that I can already sense that people are saying, okay, yeah, what else though? Because these are all things that it almost seems like, well, of course that would work, but that's hard to do, or I've tried that before.
Maybe, I'm still like on the fence, because like I thought it was like literally a lack of a certain chemical in your brain. So you're saying you can just like kind of create it by yourself?
I mean, that's
does everyone believe that? Or
no,
just like some people?
No, some people do, some people don't. And so the critics of his approach say that it's overly simplistic, but then the people that are fans of it say that. And so that's one of the things I think is so difficult about mental health, is when it works, it works. And so then at that point, somebody says, okay, see, those things work, so you should do those too.
Nothing's black or white, though.
Right?
Yeah, and I feel like that is like kind of a big problem. I'm not a problem, but like it makes it hard, because like people want like facts and like definitive answers to things, but like I feel like a lot of it is just situation to situation, or like your circumstances, like what you said.
I know, right? Because that's when I get into the acceptance and commitment therapy. The reason why I think it is so helpful is because it says that you're the only you, I'm the only me. We're a combination of I was going to say, we're a happy family. Is that like a song?
Barney or something?
That is Barney.
Whoa.
Okay, so
I can't think of that.
What were the cartoons of your childhood and those viewing? This is my daughter.
Backyardigans. Yeah.
The music on that is good.
No.
Oh, it is. I believe that if you pulled up the Backyardigans right now, which I have literally done in the last probably month and a half, Trudge, Stuck in Sand. There's all those kinds that are amazing.
I don't remember any of those. I just remember the really obnoxious intro.
Oh.
Do you remember the Webkinz songs?
Oh.
You're lying.
No, I do. I got a lot of soft stuff for you. I do remember that.
Webkinz. That was so good.
The Webkinz, that was when I felt like, that was when I started to feel like a good dad, because I don't know if you remember, but they had a typing game, and you guys would have me do it. So you would get like a VC, and I would be literally working, and then I would think, I'll just bust out a quick typing game, and then I would do really well on it because it was a child's typing game.
Yeah, I remember thinking you were like you were doing it so fast, and like I remember I typed for like
your best yard friends, the Backyardigans.
So good.
Yeah.
Also, what else? Oh, Club Penguin. Did you guys play that? That was really good too.
And
I was gonna say something else. I forgot.
Tropicopica.
I never finished one of those ever. Even I would like watch the cheat throughs, like how to cheat, and I could never make it to the end. So I don't want to talk about that one.
I'm trying to think of that. The Webkinz was that was the fun one though. I enjoyed that a lot. Were you friend? Okay, were your friends the Backyardigans? Best friends Backyardigans? Okay, people that, I mean, I love that the people are kind of identifying Backyardigans. That was the, as a dad, man. If your kids liked a good show, I was all in. So like,
was that a good show though? Really?
Yeah,
I feel like
it was fun.
SpongeBob was a good.
SpongeBob was amazing. Jimmy Neutron.
That one was weird.
Oh, because I swear it was like written for adults, but the kids would like it. Same with like Fairly Odd Parents.
Okay, but that's where it gets like controversial, because do you remember? Like, have you seen all this stuff with Dan freaking Creepo Schneider?
I've seen some of that. I have watched a documentary on that.
Yeah. No.
Your thoughts?
Hate him.
Okay.
That would be interesting to talk about.
Okay, rolling dice. Who is she? This is my daughter Sydney. Jimmy Neutron is elite. That's a good way to put it. Straight up.
Like, fine. I just like. There's better things.
Back to depression. Okay, so
that flowed really smoothly.
It did, but here's where I will go back to, and I know we've talked about this before, but I think that so then one of the critics of this, Dr. Liardi, says that they don't talk enough. He doesn't acknowledge medication, the role that medication plays, and that's where I really feel very confident. And just again, I'm a therapist, not a psychiatrist, so I can't prescribe medication. But when people are feeling really, really down, it's almost like they're just floating in the middle of the ocean, and you're throwing them a life raft that they can hold on to while they then try to start using the tools like this. Yeah.
You know what? I think I'm kind of like understanding my view of this, and I feel like it's like just important to say this isn't saying that if you take medication that you're weaker,
right? Oh,
or
gosh,
that like you're like or that like you can do it without. Like if you're, I feel like that's where I was kind of on the edge with it, because to me, like that's what it kind of feels like. It's like, oh, people who are taking medicine, you don't even need it. You could just be more powerful in your mind, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's like, I feel like that's where it is just so like to each their own, situation to situation. It's like what works for everyone. It's not black and white.
Well, you go back to that. There's like this reflected sense of self, and it's almost like every interaction or every relationship we're in, it puts up a mirror so we kind of see ourselves. And so if somebody isn't taking medication and they've wondered if they should, but they don't feel great, it's almost like then they're saying, well, you can't take medication, because that would mean that then, wait, I could. So if I can say, well, no, it doesn't work. I mean, we run into that every time we're doing one of these, where people will say, okay, I don't think therapy works. And okay.
It's just looking at life like only through your own eyes. And it's like nothing works like that. Matt.
What's up, Matt?
Where have you been?
All right. I think you missed the last one.
But yeah, it's like no one, I don't know. That's like the whole point of life, is like you're kind of supposed to put yourself in other people's shoes.
Yeah, I had a client, we were talking about that today, and I really appreciated his honesty, because he said, we were talking about empathy, and he said, I guess I kind of really don't understand it. And I was talking about how,
what,
empathy versus sympathy, like that.
Oh, okay.
But what I think he was talking about, what he was talking about was, if somebody says, hey, I know exactly how you feel, it's that concept, and it doesn't make us feel really good.
Yeah.
I
remember like people saying that, when saying that to me when I was younger, and like you don't know why, but it just like irks you. It's like, no, you don't.
It's like, I know it said I was 20-something-year-old once.
I was there.
So I know exactly what you're feeling. And it's like, oh, really?
I was also a woman in this
exactly,
life.
Exactly.
Like,
when I
what?
was a 20-year-old woman, I knew that. No, that's not the case. Okay, so with the depression, I was going to talk about, so medication, this is where I think sometimes it will raise your emotional baseline, which is that concept I really like talking about, where when you're feeling down, all the things that are, do you need a charger?
No, I was looking for my phone.
Okay. But when you're feeling down, then I think that so often that's when you can't even reach the tools. So if you're feeling overly depressed or you're feeling overly anxious and somebody's saying, okay, you need more sleep, you need to get out and exercise and connect with friends, it's going to feel like, yeah, it's not like I haven't thought of that, but I just can't even do it. So sometimes I think medication will help bump up your baseline enough that you can start to do those things that will then put you in a better spot. Okay. Narcissistic personality inventory is what it's called. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's talk about this then.
Okay, guys, I'm not going on my phone. I'm looking at the questions.
Okay, yeah, no, do. Because, we're waiting for our moderator to come in. And our
mother, you mean?
No, Mackie as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's
I'm on DoorDash. What's going on?
Okay.
Sorry.
Next time you order the clean juice or whatever you do, let me know. Because I want to try one of those.
Dude, I've gotten it so many times.
I know. I do.
It's so good.
It's like a part of your bonus for work, I think.
I'm spending my own money on it.
Are you really?
Thank you. Sometimes.
Okay, I was going to say, wait. So tell my bank account that. I'm kidding. Okay, so the narcissistic personality inventory is something that, I mean, it's really old. And even the concepts around narcissism, I mean, the beliefs around narcissism, I mean, we talk about it as more emotional immaturity. But let me read this, and I want you to poke holes in this. You can react as the kids do, okay? So narcissism is a personality trait generally conceived of as excessive self-love. In Greek mythology, Narcissus was a man who fell in love with his reflection in a pool of water.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Did you know that? Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. That's where it comes from. So the narcissistic personality inventory was developed by Raskin and Hall in 1979 for a measurement of narcissism as a personality trait in social psychological research. It's based on the definition of narcissistic personality disorder. Here's where it gets a little bit, in my world, it's very outdated. In the DSM-3, so that's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 3, and now we're waiting for the arrival of DSM-6. So even the
Did you read those?
True story? No. So the DSM is a diagnostic manual. I'm in private practice. Usually you're having to diagnose people when you're taking insurance or that sort of thing. But sometimes when I'm writing a letter for a court case or something, I might have to write a diagnosis. But usually,
I should have never asked someone with ADHD if they read a book in the first place.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wait, my ADHD was saying that somebody asked if we're bots. So it's kind of funny. That's funny. Like, I don't know. I don't even have a funny joke to say about that. Do you ever feel like a bot?
Sometimes.
Okay. Okay. So the test consists of 40 pairs of statements. I feel like, should we do this for you? Wait a minute. Okay. Do you hear what I just said?
No.
I just said, I feel like, should we do this for you? And I want to.
Are you scared?
No, I'm not scared. What I'm saying is, so in my therapy world, you hear people say all day long, I feel that you're not getting it. I feel like they don't understand. I feel like, and are you ready to like have this blow your mind? You'll never be able to unhear this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say that, I think that you're not paying attention. It's not that I feel like you're not paying attention. I feel sad because you're not paying attention. Do you see the difference there?
I feel
this is huge. Okay, so
this might be the one where you just have to run it right back.
I'm really not. I think that people use. I did good there. I think that people use the phrase "I feel" when they really should be using feeling words, and you'll see this. We'll do it tonight. I guarantee you when we stop paying attention to this. But I'm working on a podcast about this right now. And so feelings versus thoughts. So people often say, I feel when they're expressing a thought. So somebody might say, I feel like you're ignoring me. Mm-hmm. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? I said something dumb there. So if I say, I feel like you're ignoring me, they're describing an emotion, but it's not an emotion, but it's more of a thought or a judgment.
Oh, okay.
Okay. See what I'm saying? See, where does that come from? Okay.
But
so feeling.
Who are you to say it's not a feeling if they're saying it's feeling? Isn't that what you would say?
No, I would actually literally say, oh, because I'll say sometimes, well, how did you feel? And somebody will say, well, I think that person was being rude. I'm like, oh no, but how did you feel about it? well, oh, I felt frustrated, or I felt angry, or I felt sad.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? That's the third time I've said that. I don't know why I said that. So here's the.
Do you guys understand what's going on right now?
Well, this is why this is important, because one of the most, I think, on the road to maturity things that we can do is start separating our observation from a judgment, because an observation is a factual description of something that you see.
Okay.
So, right?
So it's like an assumption you're making about someone else.
Yes. So you might say, instead of saying I feel ignored, somebody might say, when I see you looking at your phone while I'm talking, I feel sad. I feel disconnected. So the observation is, when I see you on my phone when I'm talking, and then the feeling statement is like, I feel sad. And it's significant because that helps express you're expressing your feelings based on a specific observation. And that's the reality. Is it's harder for somebody to, honestly, to gaslight, or to, to tell you, well, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't feel that way. Well, it's like, well, no, if I'm feeling sad, that is how I feel. But if somebody's saying, I feel like you're ignoring me, then it gives them an easy way to say, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
But if I see you, if I notice that you're on your phone and I'm talking, I mean, that is an observation. A little harder for somebody to gaslight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's something that I think is kind of interesting.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like kind of on you if you interpret that as like an insult or not. Like,
so another example might be if you say, I feel like you don't care about my opinion. That's actually a judgment about the behavior. But if you say, when you interrupt me when I'm speaking, then I feel unimportant, or I feel frustrated.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of a trip, right? Or if I say, man, I feel like you're always late. Again, rolls right off the tongue, but that's more of a judgment about the person's punctuality. But if you say, hey, when you show up 30 minutes after we agreed on a time, then I feel kind of disrespected, or I feel annoyed. So those are the feeling words versus the observation of what's going on.
And it's like, okay, so it's like, it's not pinning it on them. It's like, this is how I feel.
Yeah, well, and this is my observation, and then this is my feeling about that observation.
Okay.
Because then you're able to kind of look at it with more curiosity, because that makes it a little easier for somebody to say, okay, I can understand that, or that can make sense.
Is this part of the narcissist quiz?
No.
Oh, I'm failing really bad right now.
No.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. So, all right, let's see. 54 says, you cannot get cause and effect from thoughts and feelings. It negates the truth. Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah. Okay, so let's go with, are you ready? So I think we should do this with you, because it's 40 pairs of statements where you're going to pick one or the other. So either we're going to do a combined, are we as a father-daughter a narcissist? Or I can take it, or you can take it.
I can take it. Okay,
are you ready, Sydney?
So ready.
Oh, but it says, though, your use of this assessment must be strictly for educational purposes. It cannot be taken as psychological advice of any kind. If you're interested in learning anything more about narcissism and how it's assessed, do not take this test. Okay. Also, your answers will be anonymously recorded.
What? Whoa. Does it actually say that?
Yeah. Because it'll...
Like our faces?
No, your answers.
Oh. It's like, where are they? Are they with us right now, bro?
Okay, hang on. I gotta do...
I'm not very good at quizzes, but I'm ready for this.
Okay, but let me look up... there was a study
Guys,
that
if I'm a narcissist, you still have to be friends with me.
Okay, this is really interesting, though. There was a... We'll talk about this after. Do you see the title?
Psychedelic experiences reduce narcissistic personality traits.
This is a hot topic, and part of that is around people that took...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what do you think?
I could so see that, because it helps with your ego.
Yeah.
It tore my ego apart. I literally forgot who I was on accident.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I could see that.
And this says, while ego death, or the loss of one's sense of self during a psychedelic experience, has been linked to more positive changes in relationships with nature and oneself, the experience was unrelated to narcissistic traits. Instead, experiencing more of an awe during psychedelic experiences was more linked to lower levels of maladaptive narcissism. It's also associated with more feelings of connectedness and of others and empathy. And so I thought it was really... And anyway, so let's take the test and then we'll see. Are you ready? Sid, I'm going to hit start. Okay, narcissistic personality inventory is what we're about to take. And I want to talk about the questions. Wait, do you want me to hit start?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Do you see I brought popcorn?
Yes, I could smell it when I walked in here.
Okay, I'm trying to I'm distracting you. Okay, here we go. For each pair of items, choose the one that you most identify with. If you identify with both equally, choose one you think is most important. Are you ready? You can't read them. I'll read them to you. I'm kidding. Okay, I have a natural talent for influencing people. I am not good at influencing people.
Depends who.
See, and that's right out of the gate, because I took this, I was going to put it on my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, and I did, but I recorded myself taking it, and it really was, I could talk through almost anything, but then I was like, wait, is that narcissistic? But I think it's about I think it's about context. So take me on your train of thought then.
I mean, I don't think I'm good at influencing people, because I don't think that people are like does it mean like outward portrayal, like or like act like influence? Oh gosh, see, I'm gonna be terrible at this.
Okay, so let's take it together. So we'll do this. So here's where I went with this question when I was taking it the first time. I have a natural talent for influencing people. I'm not good at influencing people. So I think with 700 episodes of a podcast, and we're on here doing the TikTok videos and lives, and hello YouTube live as well, that in that scenario, I think one could make the argument
that I would be good.
Yeah, but then that I know that is going to put a check in the narcissistic box. But
that's fine,
right? And you're gonna, and I think we'll find that a lot of the
okay. No, I'm just gonna be honest. Okay, if I'm a narcissist, let's go.
Okay, modesty doesn't become me, or I'm essentially a modest person.
Modesty doesn't become me, or I'm essentially a modest person.
Yeah.
Probably modesty doesn't become me, which is probably another take on the narcissist.
Yeah, right.
But that's from like religious.
I was gonna say when I first said the modesty, what comes to your mind?
I used to have to cover my shoulders and my knees till I was like 80. Felt like, because I was Mormon.
But modest was hottest.
So yeah, so like that on it. Okay, if you think I don't think modesty is bad. I think that's great, and like it's like beautiful to like be whatever you want to be, act however you want to act. But like for me, it just made me feel like really ashamed of my body, and like I was like my body was like inherently bad and like negative and like like just like
I felt bad about that in hindsight of what that message was to you.
Yeah. And I get what they're saying, but actually I don't, because like I kind of don't, because it kind of implies that like girls are in charge of like how guys view them. It's like you have to dress in this certain way, so like you're not viewed as like a sexual being. It's like, why are people, if they're doing that to you, that's their problem.
Yeah, I had a trouble with that too. You should be able to express
yourself however you want to.
Yeah.
But that's just mine.
I have a funny story when we used to do these, I would what's the word? Not moderate. I would chaperone these church dances at times, and they would have a dress code. And one of the times I just ADHD, I didn't pay attention. So I came wearing shorts, and it was not a shorts.
Scandalous.
And I got kicked out.
You're a hoe.
There was nothing to do about gardening. Yeah. Okay, so far I think you're 2 for 2 on the narcissism checklist.
Into that, I hope that wasn't like.
I know. I think it's fine. Great.
Again, person.
Okay, here we go.
What do you think?
I would do almost anything on a dare, or I tend to be a fairly cautious person. Sydney Overbay.
I'm not very cautious at all.
No, you're not. So.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm gonna be 100%.
I know. I scored pretty strong, but okay. But this is again 1970 something.
Hey, don't even just
okay,
go.
DSM-3.
Don't try to sugarcoat it.
Here we go. When people compliment me, I sometimes get embarrassed, or I know that I'm good because everybody keeps telling me so.
Okay, I don't like compliments.
Yeah, I know you do not like
compliments. Make me uncomfortable. I appreciate them, but it's just like I don't understand how that's not going to be awkward.
Without it being pretty egotistical.
I guess if you break it down. One
of my favorite things was some of your friends, and I would say, hey, thanks for coming over. And remember what someone would say?
No.
You're welcome. That one always made me laugh. So I think that person's like, yeah, no, it was probably your pleasure to have me over.
Wait, that one, that even confused me a little bit though.
I know.
Thanks for having you over. What did you say?
No, so
you're throwing mind games at me.
I would say, hey, thanks for coming over, and then they would say, you're welcome, like a kid would.
Oh, like what? Like you want them to say thank you back?
Or yeah. Oh no, thank you for having me.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's a bit immature of me, but we would always laugh about it.
Tony hates kids. You heard it here.
Oh gosh, so I have a whole mess of them. 4 of them. The thought of ruling the world frightens the dickens out of me. Or if I ruled the world, it would be a better place.
I know probably wouldn't be. I'm going to go with it frightens the hell out of me.
Okay.
Because this world is literally terrifying. I do think that I have like good morals. I hope.
No, you do.
But I don't want to be in charge of all you.
Hey, back on the compliment thing, though, I run into this a lot where people have a really difficult time taking compliments. And if we go back to that concept around differentiation and when it's like, what do we do with our discomfort? That I think often it is, when it's uncomfortable for somebody, then they shut down. They say, no, you're the nice one. Deflect.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at the concepts around like anxious attachment, and some of that is that when a kid, and this one's kind of fascinating because I think even a good parent, they're unaware at times of if a kid is needing comforting from a parent, but the parent can be busy. That's where the parent might be a little dismissive and say, hey, you'll be fine. Like, don't worry about it. Rub a little dirt on it. But then when the parent wants to feel like a good parent, they might go to the kid and say, hey, aren't you glad I did this for you? And so then all of a sudden the kid's like, okay, yeah, I guess so. Cause I do want my parents' attention. And so then it's almost as if the kid then when they grow up feels like, no, I want somebody to acknowledge me, see me. But then when they do, it's uncomfortable because when they want somebody to acknowledge them, it's usually when they're not ready for it or when they want someone to, then they're not getting that need met.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if I completely understood that one.
Okay. Yeah. That one's, should I get back to the narcissistic personality thing?
Wait, what?
Oh, I said, should I get back to the narcissistic personality?
What were you just talking about?
Well, I'm pulling up it's like anxious attachment.
Because that was like, I want to understand.
Yeah. No, I'm going to pull up something that I have that I think is really interesting. Anxious and avoidant attachment. It's in Psychology Today, and it's a really neat article. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay, so this is kind of where I was going with that. Okay, this is it. Let's see, avoidant. Okay, here we go. So there's a lot of times people identify as either an anxious attachment or an avoidant attachment style. So the anxious attachment style.
Oh, Aphrodite. She said, like I only want positive attention on my own terms at certain times.
Yeah, Aphrodite. That is so it. That's so it. Oh, what kind of popcorn is it? It's called it's the Creators, but I think it's Chicago style. It's caramel and cheese, which do you think is weird?
That is terrifying.
I know, but when you try it, it's amazing.
No, it's not.
It is. Oh, look at you making an observation and a judgment. You haven't even tried it yet. Okay, but so check this out though. So a lot of times you find that the people with an anxious attachment style end up getting together with somebody with an avoidant attachment style. And then it's this kind of push and pull in the relationship. But people with an anxious attachment style tend to fear abandonment and they seek closeness and reassurance from their partner. So when they feel anxious, they need somebody else to tell them, hey, it's going to be okay. So they will continually seek their partner. Hey, is everything okay? Or is everything cool? And they might feel anxious and insecure when their partner is unavailable or distant. And then they seek a lot of validation. And I know this one because I'm an anxious attachment. So I do want a fair amount of validation. Mm-hmm. But here's the interesting thing. Anxious attachment can develop from inconsistent care when a child's caregiver alternates between intrusiveness and emotional distance. So sometimes when a parent wants to feel like a good parent, then they're like, I'm going to be an aggressively good parent right now. So that then all right, check that box. And now they're going to go take care of whatever they need to take care of.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so it's not even about like the kid really anymore.
Kind of not. Yeah. It's a little bit. Could
that be like a subconscious thing?
Oh, I think so. I think so. I don't think the parents, this is where I do really feel like people are doing the best that they know how based on what they saw modeled or that sort of thing.
Unless you are actually just like a terrible person. It's like, if you have a baby in front, I hate babies, but if someone literally threw one at me, I'd catch it,
I hope so.
Yeah.
You're a pretty good catch.
Sometimes.
Right. But so this article says the attraction between the two attachment styles can stem from their unconscious desire to fulfill unmet emotional needs from childhood. Anxious people may be unconsciously drawn to avoidant partners because they represent a challenge or an opportunity to attain the emotional connection they long for. So this is that concept of where, if you didn't have a secure attachment in childhood, then you're going to try to find that secure attachment in your partner. But you're basically starting from a place where you go for the familiar.
So you think you're looking for love, but you're really just replicating the toxic relationship that your parents were in.
Freud called it like repetition compulsion. And so you're going to get in this, you're going to get in a relationship so that you can finally fix your childhood wound. So that's super subconscious. That's not something somebody's.
So that's like what people mean when they say like daddy issues, right?
Yeah, it's like you're trying to work through those issues, you know, when you're older, and so that push and pull dynamic, it can be challenging, and then it leads to the total frustration, because then it's. And I don't know if people have had this in their relationship, but it's fascinating when it's almost like when the anxious partner finally withdraws, it's almost like that's when the avoidant partner feels like, okay, this doesn't feel too overwhelming. So now they kind of lean in. But then when they lean in, then the anxious partner then says, oh my gosh, you're here. So then they go toward the avoidant. And so it's just this back and forth.
So what is like, is an avoidant partner, is that always like a bad thing, or is that also just like something created from
it just childhood? Is. Yeah, I mean, this is where I'm not going to throw any judgment on either of them, because it's just what people are. It's just the way people are showing up in a relationship. But then this is that concept where a relationship is a people growing machine. So the hope is that you work with, either you can figure this out, or you go work with a therapist who can point out, okay, when somebody's feeling anxious, then and with my clients, I will often say, okay, you got one check-in basically. So it's like, hey, is everything okay? And then if your spouse says, yeah, I think things are fine, because then that will ease the anxious discomfort for a moment. But then if the avoidant partner isn't jumping up and down and saying, you're awesome, then they'll be like, are you sure? Like, because you seem like something's off. And then that's the stuff that starts to drive the avoidant more away. Like, I'm fine. Like I said, I'm fine, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's the part where when I'm working with an anxious attached person, then it's like, okay, I'm going to do one check-in. And then if I notice that I'm feeling uncomfortable and I want the validation from my partner, that is a me issue. I have to trust that they said that they're okay. So now I can learn to self-soothe. So I need to go try to do things for myself, which is really good, because that's where you start to develop your own sense of self. And you know, so you're self-soothing. You're not needing that person to tell you you're okay. You start recognizing, oh, I am okay.
What are like do you have like actual tips for that? Because like,
oh yeah,
is that like the whole like self-care to like a therapy aspect of that?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I don't know. In my head, it just seems like, I don't know. I feel like I need examples, because it seems like hard.
For sure. No, this is so good, Sid. So matter of fact, this will be where we made it through 4 questions in the narcissistic personality inventory.
Yeah, and I think I'm 4 out of 4, 100%.
I think you're 3 out of 4.
That doesn't make me feel better.
So what my daughter Sydney is saying, which I really appreciate, because I'm fixated on the concept of differentiation right now. And differentiation, really, if you look at it this way, it's we have this desire as human beings to have a connection with somebody while maintaining my autonomy, or while learning about myself. And if you stop and think about it, it almost seems like a bit of a paradox, because we think that we're getting in relationships to become, you know, all together, enmeshed, you know, to become one, that sort of thing. But that's what starts to become, that's the codependent version of a relationship. Now, I believe we all kind of start codependent and enmeshed, but then you start going through life and you have experiences. So I've had a client recently who their first 10 years of their marriage was great, but then they started having kids, they started having financial difficulties. So now they're both having emotion around it, and they don't have the tools to communicate their differences. But it's like, of course we're going to have differences. So
it would be weird if you didn't.
It would be so weird.
It would be toxic, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, if you seriously don't have a single difference, like one of you is not being yourself.
And that's where the concepts of like love bombing and the like the narcissist or the emotionally immature person, and they in essence put on a mask of who they think that person needs them to be. And that's why the whole concept of love bombing is fascinating, because people just feel like, oh my gosh, we get along with everything. I click with this person so well. And that is actually a red flag, because you really want to interact with somebody that does have a different opinion, but isn't trying to tell you your opinion is dumb. And so, and I know I give some of this. Yeah.
Make sure that you're like, if you're on like a first date, pay attention to like who's asking the question, who's answering first. Like, I'm not saying like you have to like obviously like you do have to kind of be on your guard for that stuff, because like the last guy that I talked to was like total love bombing. And it was like we had so much in common, and we were in a fight, and he literally said to me, like, he said verbatim, like, Well, I mean, I just like wanted you to like me, so like I was like it slipped. Like he actually said that.
The mask fell off, and he has to put it back on. Yeah.
And so it's just like that. People really do that. I mean, obviously,
they do.
People are hurt.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is like the only thing that he knew how to do.
And that's where it's like,
still.
you know, yeah, but still. And I think I like that you said that, because when somebody when they don't have a solid sense of self, they really feel like the only way I'm going to get this person to like me is to show them that no, I'm just like you. And I really think that's incredibly emotionally mature. But here, I want your opinion on this, because I have asked a lot of people this, and I get that from a therapist lens, you know, I want people to be so authentic, and even right out of the gate from their first date, that so if you said you like scary movies and they said, oh my gosh, I love scary movies, then I think it's a really good follow-up question to say, tell me what scary movies do you like? What are some of your favorites?
Oh yeah.
So it's I call it introducing positive tension, because if the person that says, man, you name it, the scarier the better, then I'm like, okay, like which ones? And they're like, I don't even know. I can't even think of one right now. Now the red flags are starting to pop up, because now I would wonder, are they saying that because, well, if you like scary movies and I want you to like me, then yeah, I'd probably like scary movies, but that is not being authentic. But then, first of all, do you think that it would be difficult to do that positive tension thing? What? About like saying, well, which ones do you like? And then
no.
And then if it's like,
I mean, maybe it could be, but I mean, like you just like we got to do these background checks, people. You know,
that's what it is, though. She called it the virtual couch background check. Like get people like, you know, do a video of it, hide your camera. I want to know these things, because I have found so many people that, you know, they're saying, no, I love this stuff. And then if you're saying, well, tell me what you love about it, and then, you know, they're going to try to get out of that because that's uncomfortable. Because and I think at that point, if somebody's doing that, they're probably not going to say, you know what, actually, I hate scary movies, I scream like a little girl, but I really like you. I thought that was the right thing to say. But because it's almost like if they did, that would be cool, but they should have never not been honest in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the I think that's so, yeah.
And I don't like it is just like kind of immature in a loving way, because it's like no one wants to be with a person who's exactly like them.
You really don't.
That would be so like boring to be with like a whole nother person who is exact, like you want difference. Like, yeah, like I think it would be like if I said I like scary movies and the guy was like, oh, I'm actually terrified of them. Like that's funny. Like,
I know,
we could,
I think so too.
Banter off of that.
Absolutely,
you know?
Yeah. And I think that's actually a really good point. And if you say that, or somebody, or I think the mature response of I did have a couple that we were talking about this, and the wife had said that initially she likes sports, her husband doesn't. And then she's like, but he's like, no, you know, I wish I was more, he said sporty, which kind of made me laugh. But then she said that was endearing, because he said, but hey, I'm down, I'll learn. And I thought that was like, good. It was like attractive, she said,
is
right?
So much more attractive than just like, oh, I already liked that. Like we just happen to go well together. Like the like want and willingness to like look and like find interest in something that they're interested in, like that's attractive in itself.
I think so. I think that's really good. Hey, when you've been in relationships before, have you been, I don't know,
miserable? Yes. I have to take my sin out and I do it on the camera, so I'm gonna step over here.
Okay. I will have some popcorn. Oh, you're like right there. Okay. I thought you were like going somewhere. Okay.
Ow!
Oh, that hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, all right, and you're back. I have to tell a funny story this morning, and we'll get back to the Narcissistic Personality Index, and then we talked about anxious and avoidant attachment. And okay. And I was gonna say we haven't really answered questions because our question person is not logged in. So are you gonna log in?
I had questions and then it started not giving them to me anymore. So let me
try to log in.
I don't know your login though, unfortunately. Do you know it?
Do a QR code. Oh, but we need my phone.
I don't even know why it's making me log in.
Wait, okay. Oh, here we go.
No, well, we've been.
Wait, okay. Do you know, like, if you go to login? No. While you're doing that, so we talked about thoughts and feelings. I've got another thing up. I bought a book called "It's the Daily Stoic," and I know we've talked about Stoicism at times. And
you go. I'm gonna try to figure out your password.
Oh, okay. I have sent it to you, I think, in the past. Yeah. Okay. But I like this. This book has daily Stoic what's it called? Daily Stoic. Now it's so funny. I'm so distracted about wanting you to be able to get logged in because now I want to read those questions. But you go. Did you find it?
No.
Oh, okay. If you do the QR code though, because you're logged in on my account there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that. Works. That's the way I usually get in on the desktop.
Okay.
All right, here. Let me go here. Let's see. Okay, Matt said still on the Zen train. I see.
Hey.
Speak to that, Sid.
Honestly, I've been. Like,
self-soothe. Thanks, Steph. I'll get to that. Okay.
I've been using them like a lot more, and
Tell me more about that.
am aware of it, and I need to stop. And it's like kind of annoying because I don't like. I find myself doing it sometimes when I'm like, oh, I could just like have my push pop, and then I'll just do it anyways.
Okay.
But I still haven't vaped.
Okay. Which is good.
But yeah, I need to get better at that. Also, I thought I should be more full disclosure with you guys. I smoked a cigarette at Coachella.
At Coachella?
But
that's technically not a vape.
I honestly don't feel bad about it because, like, it was fun. And I had fun. And I didn't, like, buy a vape the next day. And I wasn't, like, addicted the next day. And, like,
okay. When you did
okay
it, were you like, uh-oh, here I go? Or no?
Not really.
Okay.
Honestly, I was like,
that's
let's
probably
go.
part of that's probably part of the good that you didn't beat yourself up about it.
But normally I feel like I would like shame and like guilt myself, and then I'd be in the vape shop, you know, with a vape, because it's like I'd be like anxious and like and because I was just like, no, it's like my cheat day and I don't care. And it wasn't, honestly, it was not good.
Okay.
It didn't even like get me domed or anything. It was kind of gross.
I didn't know domed was a verb. I thought you hit the dome.
It could be anything you want. Okay. It's your head, dude.
That's dome.
That's not.
Apparently it's not anything. Okay, so Steph a little earlier said, can you give examples of how to self-soothe for the anxious attachment? And I think that is a great question, because as I don't want to say recovering anxious attachment, that this has been my journey. And so when you recognize that you are feeling anxious, and let me go back. Are you still going to try to log into that?
Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Because I was going to say, if that's going to take a second, I'll go back to the.
I was literally thinking about a cigarette. I'm not even going to lie.
Here, I'll hypnotize you. Don't do it. I don't know. Is that a hypnotist thing?
No.
So Steph, I really think that it's important to think about what our relationship is like with our thoughts, with our feelings, and so we're wired to alleviate discomfort. That is a factory setting. And so when we're growing up, and I go back to even good parents, any parent, it's almost as if their job is to help guide their kid, teach their kid. Especially a parent's going to think, I need to teach my kid right from wrong. And so, but a kid is literally just interacting with things. I mean, we still are. Okay, I'll get this. So a kid is interacting with things for the very first time. They're just being a kid. But then most of the time when they're interacting with the world, a parent then, wanting to be a good parent, will jump in and say, okay, I need to tell my kid what they need to do. So, hey, sit up straight. We don't say that. We don't use that kind of language. Don't hit your brother. It's not a big deal. And so a parent, again, even a good parent, is going to be doing a lot of trying to correct and teach and lecture and preach. So the kid is eventually going to feel like, man, it seems like almost anything I'm doing is wrong. So then I think a kid goes from externalizing their emotions to then internalizing their emotions, because at that point they don't like the feeling of that they're doing things wrong. So then that's what starts to lead to things like isolation. It starts to lead to things like shame. And it really leads to this need for external validation. So now if I am internalizing my emotions, now I need somebody to almost tell me that it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to react. And that's how I think we enter adolescence. That's how we enter relationships. That's how we enter adulthood. So then
I can see you guys.
Oh, there we go. Nice. Okay.
Jesse just quit smoking today too.
Who did?
Well, not today, but Jesse.
Nice. Okay. Congrats. There you go, Jesse. But so now we're going and we're interacting with the world, and we're afraid of it's almost like we're afraid of our feelings. And those of us with anxious attachment, we can have some big feelings. And so then if all of a sudden we feel like the person that we're with is not engaged with us, if they're not paying attention to us, then we feel uncomfortable. So what do we do to get rid of our discomfort? The easiest thing we do is we check in. We say, are we good? And if they're like, yeah, then it's like, whew, okay, now I feel better for a minute. But since I don't feel good on the inside, I continually need somebody else to tell me that I'm okay. So now we enter that world of self-soothing, and it's so important to find a sense of self, because if I know that I'm okay, then I don't need that external validation. And this is a thing I've been like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Band-Aid, just like
Yes.
a little Band-Aid
Yes,
over
yes,
the
yes.
wound instead
Absolutely.
of healing it.
Yeah. And so then it's like, okay, I feel good right now, but if I'm really stressed, if I'm really not sure of what's going on, or I don't like my job, if I feel like, I don't know, there's just a lot going on, not feeling like a good parent, not feeling connected in the relationship, I'm struggling with my health or faith or any of that stuff, then I'm going to feel anxious. And again, so now all of a sudden, I'm having feelings. I don't have these feelings. So I need to alleviate the discomfort of the feeling by going to somebody or something, hitting that dome.
Don't bring it up.
Don't do it. No, don't do it. Was that did you feel like very profound moment right there?
Yeah, actually, I'm not addicted anymore. Thank you.
Okay, just like that. See?
My ADHD is gone too.
Okay. I need a fellow ADHDer in the house.
Yeah,
So
don't worry.
yeah, that stuff's not going anywhere. But in that moment though, so then now here comes the self-soothing. So I think one of the best things you can do, we talk about this, we haven't probably talked about it in 2 or 3 lives, which is pretty wild, but good old mindfulness and meditation, because when the more that you get anxious, the more you get worried, the more you get nervous, your heart rate elevates. Your cortisol starts flowing through the brain. You're starting to get to that lizard or Neanderthal brain, that reactionary brain, and we're not tapping into the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that can use a little more logic, a little more reason. So a daily meditative or mindfulness practice is going to, over time, especially, help you build that pause in there. So if I can build that pause in, that's when I can kind of catch myself, and then I can now go and I can go on a walk. I can do a little meditation exercise. I can pet a dog. I can play an instrument. I can do anything other than needing somebody else to tell me I'm okay. And what I've been really fixated on too, Sid, is when I go back to this concept of being differentiated, is that here's what external validation are: things like we talk often about the love languages, not you and I, but I think a lot of people do. And those are nice, but they're not this evidence-based model. So if I don't feel good about myself, and then now I'm in a relationship with somebody and I want external validation, what I might be looking at is saying, hey, I like words of affirmation and I like physical touch. So I feel bad. So I need you to make me feel better. But think about this for a second, is that if I don't know how I feel, but I need somebody else to make me feel better, and then I'm saying, when I feel down, when I feel really bad, I need you to tell me I'm awesome. And I need you to want, physical touch. And so this gets into this concept of, so the person I'm asking to tell me I'm awesome, but it's when I'm actually not being very awesome. And so then now they're probably not gonna be able to do that right, because they're like, okay, yeah, you're awesome. It's like, I don't think you mean it. So I need you to really mean it. And so that starts to show up as the other person in the relationship starts having this caretaking role. So now they feel like, okay, I gotta tell them they're awesome, and I have to, have physical touch, or else that they're gonna really mope and pout. So that's where you see somebody in a relationship start to feel like they have another kid in the relationship. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like in a way you're showing up to each other with empty cups, and you're being like, fill it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you have to come to the relationship with your cup already full. Yeah. Like that's not like your partner's job.
No.
And literally, like, it will not work. That, like, it's like you can do that, but it actually doesn't work. Like, it might be easier and it might feel more comfortable, but like you're just putting a Band-Aid on like a bullet hole kind of thing.
For real. Yeah, no, that's so well said. And I like it, by the way. There's somebody that just said, there's a clinical psychologist, I think, that said they stopped by a licensed psychologist to say hi. Hi, licensed psychologist. You keep doing you, because that's
we need you in here.
Yeah, exactly. You are wonderful in here. Licensed clinical psychologist did another 3 years of school than I did. And man, when I hit that master's, I was ready to be done. So I have a lot of respect for the clinical psychologist.
And I hit that 1 year, and Mark, I was like, whew.
Okay, all right. I like Blueberry said, can you talk about the I need you to want physical touch? And I like it. I think that people, or what if the connection is what really somebody wants instead of validation? That's a great question.
Start with the first one.
Well, I think they're together.
Oh, okay.
So when somebody says, no, I really want connection, but I want connection through physical touch, then, I mean, that is still a need. I kind of believe that's a need-seeking behavior, where if I'm good, then I can say, I would like to connect through physical touch. Here's the difference.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is a big difference. So if I'm coming to the in the relationship and I do have a pretty solid sense of self, but then I would like to have more intimacy in the relationship, then I'm saying, hey, I would love it if we could have more intimacy, but that's a me thing. And so, and if you're coming at that in the relationship and you're not trying to manipulate, coerce, you're not trying to seek validation, then you're saying, okay, I feel I've chosen myself and I'm now choosing you, and I would love to have this experience, like a shared experience. So then if the other person says, okay, I appreciate that, I don't really feel like that's something that I can provide more of right now, but man, I'm worried you'll be disappointed. Here's the big key, is that most likely the person that's asking that, if they're coming from a place, then again, from a solid sense of self, they probably will feel disappointed, but that's okay. Like, we're allowed to have those feelings and emotions. It's when I take it out on my partner that's now when we're starting to become immature. And this is where we got to look at, relationships really are kind of playing the long game. So if I can express myself, and this is what I would love to have more of in a relationship, and I'm not going to hold it against my partner if they're saying, man, I hear you, but there's just something right now that I don't know if I can provide that. Then I say, no problem. I appreciate that. I'm going to continue to be emotionally consistent. I'm going to continue to show up. And yeah, but I am going to have feelings. It will make me a little sad, but I'm going to show you my consistency, my emotional safety. Then that is going to help that person feel safe. So now, and this is the part that I don't think we get to, but I love this as a couples therapist, is that now that person, they feel like, wow, that person has expressed a desire, a want, a need, but they aren't telling me that if I don't do it, then they're going to be angry, or they're going to shut down, or they're going to withhold from me. So I will start to feel safe. And so that's when you start to get to where that person might say, you know what, I may not actually feel like it right now, but I care about this person. So that's where the vulnerability comes in. So now I'm willing to then say, okay, I'm going to bring my discomfort, I'm going to bring my vulnerability into this relationship, because I can trust you, because I know I'm not trying to just manage your ego or other parts of you, anyway.
Yeah. And it goes back to like that idea that like love is not like, oh, you distracted me with that last comment.
Wait, I thought they were throwing the popcorn down.
No, I was just about to say something really good.
Love is love or control?
No, it's not. That's good too. I just made a TikTok about that.
I know, right? I dig that one.
Just keep talking. I really had something juicy, but I can't remember it.
You can ask for your desires, but feeling rejected after that shows that there was an expectation. Oh, who said that? That was so good.
Yeah, it goes back to the idea that like love is not like your actions
Hey,
or like what you're doing for someone. It's like love is just a feeling, like a like connection. It's like it's not like you have to do all these things to make this other person feel as good as they need to be. Like it's like it's not like a give and a take. It's just like existing together. So
Kate Cow, I love that though. You can still ask for your desires, but feeling rejected after that shows that there was an expectation. That's so well said.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Right?
And then Swigger Music says, bro, like yapping. Oh, I love yapping. Don't get me wrong. And then, man, I wish I screen recorded that. Thank you. I see
it's
ASMR.
Re-recorded, or this will be up on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'll put chapters in it, so it's not as horrifying to scroll through.
Okay, tomorrow. And while we're here, hey, Pensive, have you heard of Logotherapy by Viktor Frankl? Thoughts on it? I will own the fact I don't know enough about logotherapy, but I love the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And that's one of those where, so I've got a recovery course called The Path Back that I love. I've got a weekly call, and it's an online recovery course for any unhealthy coping mechanism. And talking about the habit method, or I talk a lot about that. You're triggered, you have a trigger, then you have a thought, and then you have an action, and putting distance between that thought and action. I got that information from Viktor Frankl. Look at your heart on your head. But I don't know enough about logotherapy, and it's something that I really need to look into, but I appreciate that. I will actually, I will do that. Yeah.
The YouTube is called Someone Just Asked.
Oh.
It's the Virtual Couch Podcast, but I was supposed to take podcast out of it last week and I forgot to.
Oh yeah.
So it could be either by the time you're watching this.
Okay, Jen Design Store just got the #2 gifter badge. Thank you, Jen Design Store. I appreciate that. That's it. I knew where. Okay, I'm new here. And then ASMR. By the way, ASMR with Siren Official. Chewing? Well, I'll do it like all cool. No, the ASMR stuff I was never familiar with, and I'm kind of fascinated by it. So I will find you ASMR.
That actually used to help me fall asleep.
Did it really?
Uh-huh.
There's the guy that does it with food, Zach Choi or something.
Oh yeah.
That I'm just fascinated by it. I am.
It's so interesting. It really is like crazy how that became a thing.
Oh.
But like I eat it up. Like Trisha Paytas, her mukbangs, love.
Really? Okay. I like Pensive says logotherapy saved me from my substance use disorder. So all right, Pensive, I'm gonna look this up. I really am, because that's something. Ty, how crazy! I needed to hear this tonight. Thank you, Ty. Find me ASMR. I will, because I did a podcast on it. So anybody new here? Yeah, I'm a therapist. This is my daughter. I've got several podcasts. I've got one called The Virtual Couch, which is the name of this channel. And that's a general mental health podcast. It's been out about 9 years. And I've got one called Waking Up to Narcissism, where we talk about narcissism and emotional immaturity. And that's 100 and something episodes. And we've got one called Murder on the Couch that we did some true crime meets therapy. We got this thing going on. I've got one called Love ADHD. And I've got one called The Mind, the Mirror, Me with your sister, Mackie.
Someone here called you pasty.
Oh, I am very pasty. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, thank you for noticing.
Just kidding.
Oh, did they? Or they were kidding?
No,
or
they
really
literally didn't. That was just me.
Oh, look at that, how comfortable I am.
Trisha is therapy itself, literally.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
I love her. Trisha might need therapy. Also true.
Okay. All right. So now that you have that thing going, do you want to scroll back and find other questions, or?
Sure. Yeah, guys. So we're looking. So if you want to say anything,
ask your questions now. That'd be great.
Someone said all therapists should be good at yapping, and I agree with that, because if I was with a therapist and there was like awkward silences, I would walk out the door.
Okay. Let me tell you something though. Let me tell you something, brother.
Let me tell you something.
But for real, before you get too far, man, I got the little popcorn kernel thing like stuck like back there.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing I can do about it. Here, can you see it?
No.
The yapping. So in therapy school or in grad school, we talk. You're told often about don't work harder than your client. So if there's silence, then the client will.
Staring game?
No, it's not the staring game. But this is something really funny, and I just figured this out last week. Actually, I don't like the silence, and so I will jump in, and that makes me uncomfortable. What do I do with my discomfort? I'll jump in and say something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
do that too.
Okay, so I was sitting there at my mom and dad's house, and I was watching a basketball game with my dad, and and he's awesome. We love basketball, watching it together. But when it's quiet, I realize that's when I jump in and then say something. Hey, I interviewed a fun podcast guest, or I've got a client that's doing something wild, and he's watching basketball. So, and then I would sometimes maybe be like, oh man, why is he not super excited about what I'm saying? But we're watching basketball. So this time I just sat there with the silence, and we watched. And then we talked some about basketball, and I realized, oh, that is me needing to sit with the discomfort. So in the therapy world, when you're saying you want a therapist that's a yapper, I would too, and I am that. But if there's silence in the room, a lot of times that's when the client will then say something. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like the therapist is doing more work than the client if they're jumping in and saying things, Mm-hmm. Oh, live will end in, okay, geez, puzzle time.
You probably have to like read the room pretty good with that, don't you?
I think so.
It's like you don't want to make the patient uncomfortable, but then at the same time you...
Or do you?
True, because that's like the only way that you grow and change.
Yeah, I had a really good session today with somebody I've been working with for a while, and then he was really funny because he was saying that, okay, no, this time now I realize I need more motivation, I need to change. And he's like, and I really am ready to listen. And so then in my mind, I'm thinking, sure you are. So then I'm saying, okay, so what would it look like to... instead, when you notice that you want to do something and then you're not doing it, and it's this concept of inviting not wanting to do something to come with you while you do it. And then
I need to do that.
Right. And then he's like, yeah, but, and I'm like, oh, there we go. So the yeah, buts are where,
mm-hmm.
We're going to get rid of that discomfort.
That's I need to do what you just said, whatever you just said. I need to remember that.
Okay. Jesse Scott, both can answer. I've been looking for books, mental health related. I am a real fan of, I would start with The Happiness Trap. It's a book called The Happiness Trap. It's by an author named Russ Harris, or The Confidence Gap. And Russ Harris also is the author of that book. And these are books on acceptance and commitment therapy, which I think is the therapy model that is just, it's amazing. I was a cognitive behavioral therapist for 6 or 7 years. I've been an acceptance and commitment therapy therapist for over a decade. And it just has so much amazing results. And the main difference, and I know I love beating this drum, but cognitive behavioral therapy is your thoughts lead to your emotions lead to your behavior. So if you can just change your thought, then it will lead to a different emotion, a different behavior. But the challenge with that is that you can get somebody in the room and you might say, okay, the girl, this girl didn't call me back. A cognitive behavioral therapist is going to say, Oh, and the person is going to say, so she must not like me. So cognitive behavior therapist is going to say, well, or what are some other reasons? Like maybe she dropped her phone in the lake. Maybe she fell asleep. Maybe
fell off a cliff.
Maybe she fell off a cliff. And so then the person's like, oh, okay, that's a different thought. And then that gives me an emotion of maybe a little bit of hope and a behavior of, all right, so I'm sure we're fine. Or I'm going to go home. I'm going to do things. But then when it's been a couple hours later and she still hasn't called, then he's like, no, I don't think she likes me. And then the person can even say, I don't even do therapy well. So acceptance, and that starts with this premise of your automatic negative thoughts, your stinking thinking, what's wrong with me? I'm broken. And I was one of those therapists forever. You learn that in grad school. I think most influencers, most motivational speakers use that model. That's where you get a good, just wake up and do it. And you're gonna choose to be happy and all that. You get some motivational music behind some video, and I'm like, yeah. But then if you're running late or you get caught in traffic and you get angry, then you get to beat yourself up that, man, I can't even be good at being happy. So acceptance and commitment therapy says, okay, you're the only version of you with your nature, nurture, birth order, DNA, abandonment, rejection, hopes, fears, and dreams. So you think and feel the way you do because you do. So you start off from the place of, hey, you're all right. So, and that, I think that's a big helpful thing. So happiness trap, confidence gap. Okay.
Have you heard of Marcus Aurelius?
Meditations? Yeah.
Do you like him?
Oh yeah, that is funny. Earlier, this literally right here on the screen.
I never listened to guided meditations, so I don't like.
Well, Meditations was his book, and Marcus Aurelius, this is the Stoicism. And so the person that asked that question, I actually just bought the book, The Daily Stoic, by Ryan Holiday, and it just has a daily, it's a daily Stoicism or Stoic meditation, and it has a lot of the Stoic philosophers, including Marcus Aurelius.
Stoic, is that like that's like the hippie stuff, right?
Yes, and Stoicism? So I actually have some stuff that I was writing about this. So here we go. So
I think I like this.
Stoicism, I love it. Stoicism is really good. So here's 10 Stoic tips. So let me get here. Differences. Boom. Okay. So Stoicism, one of the change your perspective is one of the main Stoic tips. So,
wait, just cutting you off. Someone just said that's toxic, like what you're just talking about. That's toxic positivity. It's okay to feel sad or angry. Just
for sure.
Identify with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and
that's what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. I was like, wait a minute, because with like acceptance and commitment therapy, you are accepting the fact that you have feelings and thoughts, and they might be sad, they might be happy. And we've talked about that. You make room for them all. You don't shove them away. It's
like ridiculous to assume or like even want to be happy all the time, because like I don't know. I just like feel like that's kind of like why. I mean, this is like to everyone it's different, but I feel like that's kind of why we're here. Like to go through that, like the ups and the downs, and like to learn and grow. Yeah. So I feel like if we're just like, if you're always expecting like, I mean, you can always expect good things. Yeah. But I just like. I feel like there's like a line. There's a line with that. Well,
it's because this is like where if you get into the Buddhist philosophy of, one of the tenets is that life is suffering. And then it's, if you accept the fact that life is suffering.
Don't fear it.
Yeah. Then the fact that life is difficult or challenging or there's suffering is no longer, I'm not trying to avoid it because I know it just is. So then when I stumble upon it, then now what do I do about it? Mm-hmm. And that goes back to so acceptance and commitment therapy does have some Eastern philosophy to it. And that's the one where you're not trying to change thought. You're making room for thought. You're noticing thought. You're not trying to
control it.
Totally.
Because you literally can't.
No.
Like, I feel like we're all trying to do that. Like,
yes.
To some, like, I feel like everyone has the point where you realize it's like, oh, I actually have no control over what's going on.
Well, that's what we want control so bad. Yeah. And all right, so this is, I think we talked about that on the last live, but it's this concept in acceptance and commitment therapy called relational frame theory. And this one's going to sound super nerdy. Tell me if you remember this, because I think this stuff is so fascinating. So, So RFT, relational frame theory. It's a way to understand how we think and we feel and how language shapes our experience. So I'm going to go on a tiny tangent, but then I think it'll make a lot of sense because it'll go back to what we try to do with our thoughts. So, okay, you remember I was asking.
We talked about this last time.
We did, totally, yeah.
And you asked me the difference between a dime or a nickel, and I got it wrong.
Yeah, so I just said, all right, if you imagine you're comparing a dime and a nickel, which one is better, is what I said. And what did you say?
I was literally sleep deprived.
You had been like 30 hours asleep. So this is a concept where I'll give the Cliff Notes version, but A dime is smaller than a nickel. So then if somebody,
Thank you for the clarification.
right, a kid or the belief is like a kid or an animal or maybe a extraterrestrial would say, well, then obviously the nickel is better or worth more than the dime. But because as we learn language and concepts, we understand that the dime is worth more than the nickel, even though it's physically smaller. And so that's because we put meaning and value to things. And so here's where it starts to be awesome and get us in trouble. So then that ability to plan and think, those are the things that make us smart. They kind of set us apart from other animals and small children. And so that if you have like a problem.
Oh, are we a baby right now in the story? Why are we being separated from other small children? I just zoned out and zoned back in. I'm really confused.
All small children and animals. They would think that the nickel is better than the dime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. So this ability to think and plan and talk, it can make us smart, but it can also lead to unhappiness. Here's why. So if you buy shoes that don't fit, or you can return them. I can fix that. I can get rid of these shoes and get new ones. Or if you paint your room a color you don't like, you can repaint it. Or if you don't like your haircut, you can go to a different stylist, apparently, if you have hair and you get it cut. But when it comes, and if you have money, but when it comes to thoughts and feelings, this is where it does really get tricky. So we try to control our thoughts. We try to control our emotions the same way that we solve other problems. So if you're feeling sad or anxious, then you may want to push those feelings away or ignore them, or I will exchange them for some other feelings. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that's really interesting.
Just makes it worse.
It does, exactly. So then research shows that the more that you try to push away or ignore thoughts and feelings, the stronger they get, actually. So it's like not trying to think about a green walrus wearing a yellow hat riding a unicycle. Did you think of all those things?
I thought of the first one, but then I zoned out.
Okay.
But the first one,
yes,
instantly.
And so this is that concept where if you feel nervous and anxious talking to new people, then you will say, okay, well then I'm going to avoid talking to new people, which then is going to make the anxiety worse, right? But then if I acknowledge that, okay, that is a thought and a feeling, and they are there, and those are things, then I can actually invite them to come with me while I talk to new people if I have a value of connection, that kind of thing.
And then you act like, I feel like it's easier to kind of distract yourself from the anxiety a lot of times. Like you will still feel it, but when you're talking to people and you're there's moving parts, you're not just in the bed burrito for a month, Bed
burrito.
It's it is it can be easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes. Pensive said suffering is perspective. A lot of people have it way worse than what we're going through. And this is that I think sometimes is that concept of first dart and second dart reaction. Like the first dart is the dart thrown at us from life. So it is the things that happen. And the second dart, they say, is the one that we throw at ourselves. So it's the, let's say that, let's say you forget to go to the DMV, hypothetically.
Gonna bring this up forever. Guys, I've had a flat tire for a month and a half.
I think we're gonna
now I have to go to a tire place.
I think we're gonna get a ticket because the Jeep's a little bit of an eyesore out on the road. Don't you think?
No, yeah, it's true.
It's a little bit. But that second dart. So then if I feel bad about if something happens, I lose my keys, and then that's the first dart. I'm gonna have some emotion. Oh, that was cool. It was on my head there. But then the second dart is when I throw at myself and going man, what's so wrong with me? I'm so dumb. And
that one hurts more.
Absolutely. Yes.
Honestly.
But if I can accept the fact that, oh, check it out, I lost my keys, that's going to happen. Then it's going to actually calm my central nervous system down. I'm going to be able to stay in my little prefrontal cortex, and I might have a better chance of finding it. And I am not going to get frustrated. Okay. The other morning when you were taking me to the airport, remember that one? And I was just walking around calm. And then I was saying, I cannot find, I think it was my wallet maybe. And then I was like, this is getting really interesting. This, I need it before I go on the airplane. But I really was at the point where it's acceptance of if I can't find it, then I will be canceling the flight. Yeah. And I mean that's a thing.
Yeah, but no, I used to be in that situation where you were, and then I would just start bawling my eyes out, and I'd just be bawling, looking for my phone, It's just you let yourself get so overwhelmed. And that one, it's actually you have to kind of practice. I feel because it's you can say that, and then acting like that is harder.
So you may have lost your phone a couple days ago, and you did a great job. How long did you lose it for? Hours?
Yeah, sometimes I just give up. And
you were so calm about it though.
Because I've like seriously like lost everything in my life so many times that if I cared, I'd be dead. Like I literally would have a brain aneurysm. Like seriously. And then, but like then once I kind of get into that like
thank you, Matt.
mindset and like practice it more, it's like crazy how it actually kind of does. It's crazy how you like kind of have control over your mind, but you don't. But like you kind of do.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there though, because that's the even when somebody, you know, so somebody is not going to therapy, not trying to work on their mental health or stuff. I get it, but a lot of times they're like, yeah, I don't even think it would work, says the person that's never actually gone. Or I have people that come and then they say, hey, I really want help changing something. And then you kind of start talking about stuff and they say, yeah, I don't think that would work. It's like, oh, so have you like tried it and stuff? Because I mean, you know, I got a little road under my wheels here of experience, and it seems to work pretty much every time somebody tries it. But I mean, maybe you're different, right?
It's just a little license.
I know, we're a little license. Okay.
Do they give you a license, like a ID?
No, it's like a paper thing. Actually, no, my therapy license is it's still paper, but it's kind of looks like it's kind of small.
Like a permit?
Kind of. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Are you hungry at all?
No.
Because everybody else went to Mitch's game. I was gonna say we could get food. Yeah, I'm kind of hungry. All right. What else? What do you think?
How can I teach my 5-year-old daughter to verbalize her feelings instead of not speaking and sobbing? Take it away, Tony.
Oh, I thought you were going to
love to speak and sob. Wait, what was the question? Not speaking and sobbing.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I will tell you right out of the gate that I did my practicum out of grad school working for the Child Abuse Prevention Council. So I did a little bit of kid therapy, but that is not my wheelhouse. But I do know I've done a couple of episodes on how to teach our kids empathy. And one of the best things you can do is to, it really is to model it, if anything. And a lot of times it goes back to that, how do we get rid of our discomfort? And if my kid is crying or sobbing and that makes me uncomfortable, then the way I get rid of my discomfort is to say, hey, it's okay, like calm down, or it's not a big deal. But then that's so like, crying exactly, that's what people do. Baby. Yeah. I mean, but people, and it's pretty normal though. Cause it's like, and then I think that this is where it starts to even get on the vibes energy where, you know, it's like if the parents like, hey, shh, like, calm down, versus it's like just kind of, and I think one of the keys 5-year-old is get down on their level. You're getting eye to eye. And one of the best things you can do is just try to put make physical contact. There's the cuddle hormone. It's called oxytocin. And so that's where you just put your hand on theirs. You kind of look at them, and with some empathy. And then it's just, hey, I'm here, tell me what's going on, or how are you, tell me what you're thinking or what you're feeling. And then don't try to correct it. And because that's, again, where we want to get out of our discomfort. And so that's where we want to say things, which really we mean well when we're saying things like, hey, it's going to be okay. Because the kid may not feel like it's going to be okay, whatever it is. But it's just like, get them talking. How are you feeling? What are you thinking?
And I feel like meet them where they're at, right? Like, don't, like, if your kid is sad about something, even if to you, like, it doesn't, like, they obviously shouldn't be sad and you want them to feel happy, like, you just have to, like, meet them where they're at. Like, we're sad, we're sobbing, we're all crying now, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that connection could help them to feel more, like, able to open up.
Yeah, more seen. I mean, even though they're a little kid, I mean, it really is.
And then you're not telling them their feelings are wrong.
That's the thing. And I can't stress that enough, that even the best parent in the world that isn't aware, when they don't know what they don't know, then they might be saying, I need to calm my child down, versus in reality, I need to let my child emote.
True.
Because it won't last forever. Mm-hmm. But when a kid often feels like, okay, apparently my feelings are wrong, they're going to actually probably get bigger at first. And then eventually, they will learn to then internalize those feelings. And then, we'll feel better because, like, no, my kid's pretty calm.
You think you're being a good parent. You're really just like setting up all these horrible subconscious patterns. And then now they're going to have a really weird boyfriend that you're going to have to deal with in the future.
Okay. So don't do that. And you avoid the weird boyfriend. That's what you're saying?
Pretty much, honestly.
Okay. It's a fair statement. Yeah. Okay. What else do we have? Let's do a couple more. Let's go till 8. We got 10 minutes.
Is the empath as much of a manipulator as the narcissist? Are they more similar than different?
Okay.
That's so interesting.
It is a great question, Blueberry, because so I deal a lot with we've talked about the human magnet syndrome, where you've got the pathologically kind person and the emotionally immature or narcissistic person form this human magnet. And what is really, really interesting is what that question you ask, it can seem really offensive actually to somebody that is very empathetic, but
everyone's situation is different though.
It
Like
is.
that I feel like that would be you taking it and putting it on your own situation, right?
Yeah, it can be. And so if you really look at what creates sometimes an empath is somebody that maybe didn't feel as heard or seen, that they grew up with a lot of chaos in the home, and so they learn to read the room. And so they're going in there and it's like, okay, what mood is dad in? What's mom up to? What do I need to do to try to keep the peace, to either not be seen? And that makes so much sense. And so there's some belief that then the kid's going to have heightened mirror neurons. They're going to pick up on more signals. They might have even they're kind of looking for patterns. Like that's a thing a lot of times.
So do you think maybe it's like less of like a toxic version of manipulation, but it still is a form of manipulation because like we're all just kind of products of like who's to say what one's really like no person is really a bad person because of their childhood. I don't know.
No, I do. I mean, and it's funny. So I believe that because even it's just hard because the narcissist gets in the relationship with the empath or the pathologically kind person. And then that human magnet syndrome. And then you can really get frustrated because the narcissistic person is so emotionally inconsistent. They're, then does turn things back around on the nice person. So they're made to feel crazy. They lose their sense of self. But when you kind of step back from it, the sad part is that the narcissist, narcissism is it's a personality trait that comes from a lack of connection in childhood, a need for external validation, and then lower empathy. And so when you put that combo pack together, they truly don't know what they don't know. So they feel like, oh no, I have to manipulate this person to if they're going to stay, and I can't be wrong because if I'm wrong, then they will leave me.
And that doesn't make their toxic actions okay.
No, it doesn't at all. But
it does, like, I mean, we're all just people products of what our environment, and like all just like trying to be seen. And I feel like it like puts a little silver lining on it. It's like,
so when if I'm working with somebody and they are getting out of a really bad, emotionally immature narcissistic relationship, that it's, they have to do a lot to kind of work through that. They're so empathetic that they feel so bad for the narcissist that then they think, no, I'll stay, I can change them, that sort of thing.
Oh, and see, that's where what I'm saying could be toxic. Because if you really like just are like, oh, they are a good person, they're just being hurt, then that can like make you start to not see all the abusive things that they're doing to you.
And I right. And I know we talk about take it back, because we talk about trauma bonding a lot. I mean, so the part that I see in my office is even when I start to say, oh wow, that that sounds difficult, or I don't feel like that's really a healthy version of a relationship. Then the nice person, the empath, the pathologically kind, will come back and say, I mean, but no, I mean, they do some good things too. And so it's almost like I just made the empath uncomfortable by suggesting that they're with someone bad, or they are, and so then it's almost like the way they alleviate their discomfort is to let me know, but it's not all bad, and that literally is like that symptom of a trauma bond where the person that delivers the punishment also gives the reward.
Yeah.
But yes.
In a way though, I feel like when it's like a narcissist with
pathologically kind or empath?
No, it was a different. Oh, I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, it's okay. You jump back on it when it jumps in. So, but the part that I haven't really talked about this a lot on any of my podcasts because I work so much with that human magnet syndrome. But I think the person that was asking the question said, are some of, could an empath be viewed as manipulative? But the concept around that though is if this empath has grown up and they do read the room and they are so kind of attuned to try to keep the peace, that at times they can want to control certain situations, because I think that's the part where they are coming from a place that they really feel like is like, no, I can help keep the peace. I can help.
The people pleaser
like comes out,
trying to like make sure everyone else is okay.
Yeah, I think the part that can be really difficult is there are times where I've been working with a couple, and when they really start to get the tools down, communication and differentiation, and they're able to sit with the discomfort, but then that empath is trusting their gut a lot. So there are times where they might say, okay, I really feel like something's up, that you're acting weird. And if that person isn't, and they're really like, no, I'm sitting in my own discomfort, I've got a stronger sense of self, and I understand why you would feel that way because I've been that way in the past. But I'm not, I know that I'm not doing that, whatever you're thinking. But if a lot of times that's where the empath can, and I've had that where they're saying, okay, but I've been right about this so many times, it's hard for me to ignore what I'm feeling. And then that's where you might see the emotionally immature person at times to say, no, okay, you're right. Yeah, I probably am doing something I'm not aware of, you know? So then they almost give in to alleviate their discomfort. And so I think that's the part where sometimes you can see that person.
So are you like both like just kind of feeding each other's like emotional wounds, basically, like back and forth?
Yeah, it really is. And that's the part where it's, and the couple of questions here, ASMR with Siren Official, and then Danielle. So we got, how do you break the trauma bond? And then Danielle says, that's me, 13 years of not seeing how I was being abused. That it's really hard because when you, to break the trauma bond, then you're going to have to deal with a lot of discomfort. And the people that, this is where my heart goes out to the empath, because so I've got these 5 rules on, please go find my Waking Up the Narcissism podcast, because I cover so much. I've done a couple of episodes on trauma bonding and intermittent reinforcement and, you know, the antagonistic attachment style of the narcissist. But I've got these 5 rules that I haven't talked about on here in a while. And that is when you're interacting with somebody who's emotionally immature or narcissistic, typically you are that pathologically kind person, the empath. The first thing I say is raise your emotional baseline. And I've got episodes on that. That's my concept around self-care, that self-care is absolutely not selfish. And the empath or the pathologically kind person spends so much time, in essence, sacrificing their sense of self to try to keep the peace in the relationship, that then, you know, they really need to do some self-care if they're going to start to break a trauma bond or get out of an uncomfortable situation. So it is self-care. Self-care is not selfish, and it doesn't have to be manicure, pedicure, run a marathon. It can be starting to hope and dream and read and go on walks and believe and listen to podcasts and all these sort of things.
Start like listening to yourself.
Yes.
Like start to like, I feel like really starting to like learn how to identify like your inner voice as opposed to like
so much
like the reflection of everyone, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, a lot of times through my life, I feel like I would like almost live it like through the perspective of someone else.
And that's,
you know
yeah, because the kind person is like, well, they must be feeling bad. But it's like, well, they're just doing.
Yeah.
And by the way, Tay, thanks so much. Thanks for the high quality conversation insight. And so then at this part, then, so you got that, raise your emotional baseline. And the second one, I say, get your PhD in gaslighting. Because if you're starting to get your emotional baseline up, you're starting to show up a little bit different in the relationship, you're probably going to see more of that gaslighting, where you're gonna start calling things out, and then you're gonna hear, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. Yeah, I didn't say that. And then as the kind person, typically you're the one that's saying, okay, well then maybe it was me. I mean, I don't think that was me. And that's that concept of gaslighting. So you can see all these things kind of play into the trauma bond. And then the third thing I like to say is then.
Whoa.
Yeah, what?
I just kind of had a connection. Like, you know, when you talk about how narcissists like confabulate and stuff, like that. So could they like unintentionally gaslight you a lot of the time?
Yeah.
And then that's like, again, like you're just feeding each other's emotional wounds, because like that's the pathologically kind person. Like they're constantly like, was it me? Was it me? Was it me? So when you're hearing someone you love say it was you, like that's a mind F.
It is. And so for those new, I mean, again, go find, please, on the Wake Up to Narcissism, I've done episodes on confabulation, which is a fascinating concept of where, you know, the narcissist or the emotionally immature person, they create new memory. They confabulate their memory so that then it keeps them in a place where they weren't the bad person. And it happens almost in real time. And so then that's why the gaslighting is so strong, because it's like, I couldn't have done that, because that would mean I'm a bad person. If I'm a bad person, you might leave. So actually I didn't do that. You did that. And that stuff is happening in real time. And I like that you brought that up. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. I'm just like, I'm thinking it over in my head, because I'm like, okay, so if they're doing it unintentionally, like now I feel bad again, but it's like, I guess it doesn't matter if it's unintentional or intentional. If they're invalidating you and making you feel like crap, like then that's not okay, period.
Yeah, but you're going to then burn your own emotional calories trying to show them, no, I didn't, or I did, that isn't me, and that isn't what I said. And they're like, no, you said that. And then that you can see where the kind, so that leads to the third point where I say you have to get out of these unproductive conversations. Because now when you recognize that you're being gaslit, the longer you're in it, the more you'll feel crazy. And then my fourth concept is that you need to learn to set healthy boundaries. But the biggest challenge with the narcissist or the emotionally immature is that a boundary becomes a challenge. So, and when you set the boundary, it's in essence saying, I bet you won't do this. You know, if you're saying, hey, you can't talk to me that way in front of the kids.
That more, like, why is it a challenge? Why is a boundary a challenge?
Okay, so and it goes back to like to the narcissist or the emotionally immature person. that it goes back to that black or white thinking, the all or nothing thinking. So if you now have a different opinion than to the narcissist, they are saying, oh, then you think my opinion is wrong.
You're invalidating.
Yep.
Them.
So now I will show you, I have
attack.
to take the one up position. So how do I do that? I break down your opinion, and I don't even have to use facts or anything. I can just go big.
Yeah.
And so then when it comes
easy
to
when you can, wow.
Yeah. And so and then I know we talked about this, which I so appreciate, is that, and we often think we're setting a boundary when we're given an ultimatum. And an ultimatum is, hey, I need you to not talk that way around the kids. Well, what you just did was you just said, hey, here's a button you can press to really get me upset. So the next time that you're around the kids, then you're saying, well, your mom's the one that wants the divorce. All of a sudden she's livid, because it's like, I cannot believe you just said that, and now she gets upset. And then he's like, hey, well, you're the one that said, and so that's just the crazy making. So that's an ultimatum, is you better not. So a boundary is a me thing. So a boundary is, if you say that, then I will leave. And that's hard, because that doesn't mean they're going to go, okay, because they're used to then saying, sure you will. So, because the kind person will continually back their boundary up over and over.
Okay. I have a question, but then I maybe know the answer, but then maybe I don't. So like, why does the narcissistic person enjoy seeing you squirm? And then my answer to my own question was, is that what they think love is? Because they think love is control. Yeah. But like, what is that it?
Yeah. So because you can have love or control in the adult relationship, not both. And to the narcissist, if they've never been able, they don't know their feelings. They know that it is about control. It's about the one-up position. It's about status, and they do feel like that is love. So it's like, I won't let you go do that thing because I love you, because I am not going to let you have a possibility of getting out of this relationship because I care so much. So that's where that control comes in, because in a healthy relationship, you are two people. We get in relationships, we're codependent and enmeshed, and we start going through life. And we're codependent and enmeshed because what we talked about earlier, where we're emotionally immature. We don't know what we don't know. We agree that, no, I like scary movies too, even if I really don't, because I like you and I don't want you to leave. So then I can probably get to like scary movies. But then so we get in this thing, so everything's great. And then you start going through life, and you start going through things like, we have kids, we have financial responsibilities, or we have to move or something like that. Now here comes the fact that, we're two different people with two completely different childhoods and experiences with different expectations in the relationship. We don't have the ability to communicate effectively about that. So then the more emotionally immature almost wins, because now they will manipulate you into doing what they want, because they feel like, no, that's how I feel safe. So that boundary versus ultimatum, if you do this, then I will leave, and you have to be ready. That's where the discomfort comes in. That's why you have to have that emotional baseline raised. You have to have that self-care locked in. And it isn't something that happens overnight, because then when you are going to have to sit with some discomfort, and it's good to have your support network together. But let's get to the final one. 8:02. We got to go. I'm kidding. The last one is just know that you will never give the other person the aha moment or the epiphany.
Okay, when you say aha moment, do you mean like light bulb moment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm always editing it.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I'm writing aha, and I'm like, what does this mean?
Do you know?
Like,
is that the kids
but no, I
these
get
days?
now. It's like aha.
Aha.
But like,
so,
it's just like, what is
that's
this?
the problem.
Like AHA, like Alcoholics Anonymous? Like, what's going on? It's so confusing.
Okay, but that one's probably the most important, because the kind person's going to continually say, okay, but last time this worked, so why isn't this working this time? And the more you engage with the truly narcissistic or emotionally immature person, then the more ammunition that you are giving them to turn around back on you, to gaslight you. As a matter of fact, if you are watching this now, tomorrow, on my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, I'm releasing one about Darvo. You edited that clip for that today, right? And do you know that one?
stands for defense.
Okay.
No? That's what I wrote on the TikTok. Ignore that.
Did you? I don't
remember. Well,
it's funny because
it's
one that I had not done in a while, or I haven't done one. But Darvo stands for deny.
Oh.
Yeah, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender, and it's a manipulation strategy used by the narcissist. Yeah, do you need to go edit that?
No, I think that's what I wrote.
Okay, so deny. So it kind of fits in what we're talking about. Deny, the person denies the behavior or action they're being accused of. They might claim that event never happened, or you're exaggerating or lying. Then they attack. So after they deny it, then the individual attacks the credibility or character or motives of the victim. And this can include name calling, accusing the victim of having ulterior motives, highlighting the victim's flaws to discredit them. and then reverse the victim and offender. So they reverse who is the victim and who is offending. So then the individual reverses roles. Now they're the victim, and the actual victim is the one who offended them. And that's used now to gain sympathy and support while undermining the victim. So that Darvo is real. Okay.
Is it possible that they push boundaries to see if you are consistent as a sense of safety?
So yes, and so we're often in our relationships almost subconsciously testing the relationship for safety. But the problem is, if the narcissist or the emotionally mature, they lack a sense of self. So it's almost as if they're going to make sure that you aren't safe so that they can take that one-up position.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That was Blueberry.
She's Blueberry's got some great questions.
No, literally, your brain is so smart.
Yeah. And then ASMR has been showing up. There's so many people tonight that were so good. So
I know. Did we miss something with ASMR?
Probably.
I was trying to find it, but I couldn't. I hear you never late.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for showing up, everybody. We love doing this stuff. And if you have questions, I think I might have mentioned this last time, you can send them to me. Go to my website, tonyoverbay.com. You can send them through the contact form on the website. We're going to be back, and we're going to try to do about 2 of these a week.
Can we go on a tangent?
Yeah.
She's saying that she has kids with a narcissist. So like, what do you like? Okay, let's say you finally leave them, and like it's all over and you're healing, and what do you do when you have to like see them at every family event and like switch kids with them, and like how do you avoid being like their punching bag in those situations when they're so used to you being that? I know, and this is one where I'll give we'll do a little bit, and if we can remember, it'd be a good one to start the next one, because I have a lot of thoughts on this. I will. Oh no, I totally will, because this is one that I think I was probably 30 or 40 episodes into the Waking Up to Narcissism when I finally did an episode on co-parenting with a narcissist. And there's a concept called parallel parenting, which is basically you are literally going to be doing your own thing while they're going to do their own thing, because too often as you try to parent one way in your home, then the narcissist is literally going to do the opposite, because they're still making it about you. And when I'm working with couples, I mean, I would love to save every couple's relationship and everybody lives happily ever after. I think I've worked with about 15 or 1600 couples over 20 years. And so divorces do happen. And then it's wild, because people will say, I want to do what's best for the kids. And that feels good. But then what is best for the kids is not to then take this kind of a victim stance where, again, this example where, the parent then gets really angry about the divorce, or they tell their kids, well, we'd have more money if your dad wouldn't have left, or that sort of thing. And so then it's putting it on the kid, and now the kid feels in the middle. And so the when you're making it best for the kids, it's you're showing the kids that we get along great, we love you, and we're gonna keep things like the stuff that we're dealing with, we're gonna deal with away from the kids. And here's the big key, is that kids get their sense of self from external validation. And so when a kid grows up and they're not getting the best version of either parent, then that's where you're kind of creating an old soul. You're parentifying the kid. You're creating maybe more of an empath or someone, because the kid, their sense of self is developed because they are trying to manage their parents' emotions. They're trying to do something to get the attention of the parent, or to make the parent less sad, or to, not get in trouble so the parents won't get angry. It's so like sad imagining a tiny little kid trying to do that. It's like, give him the Legos. Like, I know, right? And so that's where when so kids get their sense of self from external validation. So and this is why, and me and your mom did not get a divorce. I love being a parent. I love your mom. So I know that this stuff from experience as a therapist, but not from real life experience. And that's why I think I had a hard time talking about this confidently for a while. But when people are in these emotionally abusive, toxic relationships, a lot of times they say, I love the heart on my head. I don't want to get out of it because I don't want the kids to be part-time with that person, the narcissistic person. But what I have seen, so I've got a private women's Facebook group for women in relationships with narcissistic people. It's like it's 700-800 women. It's amazing. You get to see these examples of people that then finally get out of a bad relationship, and then they start to feel better, and they start to find their sense of self, and they start to feel relieved, and their central nervous system, calms down. And so now when they are with the kid, their kid is just, it is about their kid, And so then when they go to, let's say, the more narcissistic parent, it is about the parent. And so I wish there was a math formula where you could say, so the net positive is that now the kid does finally get an opportunity
to get that external validation and that they need to then make it about them.
And you're able to like approach your kid with a full cup at 100%. It's like you weren't able to do that before, I'm sure, when you were like living with the toxic relationship, because they're constantly draining you. But oh my gosh, I've like actually never thought about it like that. Like how like you would maybe refrain from leaving the relationship because you don't want them to be alone with the kids.
Most people do.
That's so sad.
And I can't say that this is going to happen every time, but typically the true narcissist is using the kid as a pawn or as a weapon, as a tool to get back at the person that, you know, is now finally stood up and divorced them. And so again, this is the part that I'm not going to say this happens every time, but often the narcissist, I mean, they don't get the validation that they want from the kid. So then they may not continue to follow through on the schedule or taking the kid as much. And so it's wild to see sometimes when somebody has stayed in a relationship for years because they've thought that I don't want to, you know, quote, mess up my kids. But then when they get out of the relationship, they're able to be more of themselves and they end up actually having a lot more time with the kid.
Yeah. That is like one of the scariest stigmas to me. Like the idea that like divorce is like such a bad thing. It's like divorce isn't the bad thing. Divorce is amazing. It allows women to leave and men to leave toxic relationships. But like I don't know, it's just like I feel like there is like that, like in the manosphere or whatever, there's this thing where it's like you're weak if you're, or even in when I was Mormon, it was like looked down on if you've gotten divorced. But like no, like you leave a toxic relationship, like, and like you said, it's like the family you're not benefiting the family by doing that. Like it's just more toxic keeping it together.
And I had a guest on one time and he said something a little controversial, but I understand. I didn't at the time, but he was talking about that the person that stays in the toxic relationship is being selfish. And I was like, oh man, that sounds harsh. But I understand that what he was saying was that it's like, it's you know, easier to stay only because of that, how difficult it might be on the way leaving. And so, and I understand that, but it's still you know, as the therapist working with this population a lot, man, that's the last thing I want to hand over to the person that's kind and trying to do what they think is best.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not to say you are selfish.
No.
But I feel like maybe once you're on the other side of it, you can see how it's like, oh, this is a lot better over here, you know? Like, I don't know.
Well, no, and you're right. And so real quick, because I saw some people here saying you're explaining my life, you know, and that just breaks my heart. And somebody said, I saw one that said, do I offer video sessions as an adult? Oh, no, I want to get to that one. And I do, you know, I'm blessed with a really busy practice, but there are times where I can take some clients every now and again. So send me a DM. Is that what the kids call it? Or go through my website. But I mean, if I can't fit you in the schedule though, go find my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast. I mean, it really is a good resource. And then the Private Women's Facebook group, I think, is good for men that are in relationships with emotionally immature women or narcissistic women. That's a whole thing itself. And I've got a new group I'm calling it the Emotional Architects group that's starting up soon. And it's going to be twice a month. And it's guys who are trying to kind of wake up to their own emotional immaturity or learn to that concept of differentiation to manage their reactions and responses.
That's cool.
I liked this thing though. There was somebody here that said, Lina or Lena, as an adult, it's our responsibility to regulate our emotions and teach by example. It's tough, but that's it. I mean, you nailed it, because that's the part where and I go back to differentiation is an amazing thing. It sounds like maybe it sounds a little bit mean at times, but it's everything is a me issue. And so, but that can be empowering. So then it's a me issue. If I'm noticing I want to react, then that is something that then I can work on. And then I can become more emotionally consistent, which can provide more safety in the relationship for our kids. And that's even when you're in a relationship with an emotionally immature or narcissistic person. It's just hard though, because what we said earlier, they know how to push buttons. And if they can get you to react, then they're kind of getting you back in the role that you've probably been in. And so that is really difficult. Okay. I am ready.
What can I give a narcissist to watch?
Oh, Cleo.
Is your podcast for both? Like, what is?
Yeah, so it's such a great.
I listen to every episode, but I just.
Oh, you have not. Okay, this is such a good question, and I really we'll go, but please send me like your questions more. But so Cleo asked, what can you give a narcissist to watch? Here's the problem: is a narcissist is not going to get something that says, "Hey, I think you're a narcissist," and go, "Oh man, let me check this out." So on my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast, I was very intentional about this, and maybe 5, 6, 7 episodes in, and it's at like 120 or something now. I laid out the concept of, I think the episode is called "Am I the Narcissist?" And I talk about how narcissistic personality disorder is 3 or 4% of the population. But boy, if you listen to pop culture,
Bible.
I mean, what's that?
Give them the Bible.
But if you kind of listen to people around you, narcissism seems like it's 70% of the population. But really, we're all emotionally immature. And so when part of what my podcast does is I give a lot of examples of my own emotional immaturity, or I have a lot of stories of people that wrote in. I get a ton of emails for that one. And so I think people start to identify with it's a lot easier to kind of say, oh, I could see that. I'm a little more emotionally immature versus somebody saying, hey, I think you're a narcissist. Because that's just, so if you can get them, there's a lot of episodes that I have that are a little bit more. I've done 6 different episodes of one called Death by 1,000 Cuts. That one, those get a lot of views. Oh, but it's like, they're so sad though. But I think that's one where people that hear it realize, oh man, that's my relationship. And people that maybe are kind of the one that is doing the cuts will oftentimes go, oh man, yeah, that's what I'm doing. That kind of thing. So,
okay. Well,
okay.
It's good that some people can.
Yeah. All right. So, hey, thanks everybody. Great to see you. We'll go back live again. What's today? Thursday. Do you want to do it? Oh, Sunday night, because I'm going out of town Monday.
Will you guys be here on Sunday?
Yeah, come back Sunday night. We'll see you then.
Can we do Sunday?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah, I can do Sunday.
Okay, Sunday night. We'll be back.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you, Sid. As always, thanks. Hug?
No.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
David, thanks for. Do you?
Yes.
That's so nice. That's so nice. All right. Sunday night, I'm here. David, thank you. And thanks for the gifts, too.
Yes.
Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. I'm going to press this button.
Dreamy love. Bye.
Okay. ASMR. Thanks, too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Boundaries for the win. Thanks, everybody, for real. We'll see you Sunday night. Have a great. There it is.
Be on YouTube.
Great time. And that was fun.
2 whole people. Let's freaking go.
What's better, 7,000 or 2? Oh man, Dreamy Love, thanks for being here. For real. Wait, does this work on here? It does. Wait. No. Come on. That works all day when I was doing stuff. Okay. All right.
You were doing that all day?
Well, when I'm doing the real therapy on the Zoom camera.
So that's what you're doing back here.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good night, everybody. And oh my nose, it just